Oh, it's working now. Sorry, guys. Oh my gosh. Instagram. Why? See, I used to work at Instagram. So this extra pisses me off when it doesn't work because I'm like, guys, do better. Yay, it's working. Hello, you guys. Sorry, we're 40 minutes late. This is not my... Oh, sorry, I dropped you. Sorry, guys. People, why? Yay. Hello. Sorry, you guys, that it's late. I just got that perpetual checking connection thing, and I had a good connection, but, you know, what can you do? But thank you for joining me here today. Hope you're doing well. Hope you guys had a good day. I literally was just about to give up on this Instagram Live, but I'm like, you know what? I'll try it one more time. Brittany's in the house. So, Hypnotist Queen. I like that one. You know what's funny? You guys are gonna laugh at this, but I have been learning so many like internet slang words now that I'm out of the Big Brother house. As you can probably know, if you know me, you know I'm not very cool. So I did not know these things before the house. But the amount of people that call me queen and mother hen. I'm like, hen? I did not know that was a thing. I think it's a term of endearment, right? Yeah, sorry guys, I was late and Instagram was being weird. But yes, hello. Here is what is on the agenda today. My magical notebook. Now, I think, if you all recall, during my intro, like, you know how on the premiere episode, they do the intro and they tell you all about each person and you guys got your first taste of how weird and crazy I am. See, I'm trying to hold this up, but whatever. I think they showed this handy dandy notebook that I had created. Look, it's like falling apart. It's very well loved. I think they showed this notebook in my intro because it was 40 pages of my Big Brother strategy. Many things I used, many things I did not. Many things I wrote down and should have used but didn't or forgot. But I have been going back through it and making some notes, thinking of some things that I wish I would have done that I didn't do. And I know this is a big teaser because I'm actually not going to share all of that today. But also in this notebook, what I did is I went through week by week because I'm a little bit crazy. You guys know this already though. I went by week by week, and as I was watching the episodes, jotted down some notes and thought, you know what, this would be kind of interesting, mainly as like a memento to have for myself that I could say like, oh, this wasn't shown in the episode, or oh my gosh, I can't believe this, or to write down stories for myself, almost like a journal of just chronicling this crazy experience. But then I was thinking, you know, as I was doing this, that you guys might get a kick out of this too. So I thought that it might be kind of fun to just go by, to do like a series. I'm thinking like Instagram Lives like every other day, to do a series where perhaps I go through and just share week by week some thoughts and kind of some behind the scenes things and kind of where my head was at as things go through. So that's what I'm kind of thinking. And then we can answer some questions. People said, are you Southern now? I've always been Southern. I lived in Texas, many different areas, in Georgia, many different areas. So yeah, this is just me. Stop. You are so hip. You know, I am not hip. You guys, if you wanted hip people, you would be watching Turner's live right now. I am not hip. We know this. So yes, so that's what we're going to do. And if you have questions, I'll answer questions throughout. And I'll just keep this to like, I don't know, an hour. That's kind of long. Or until we're tired. And yeah, so we will go through week by week. And then if we don't, however far we get through is fine. And then I'll do Instagram lives like other days. Not to mention, because this is a series, I will be employing some of my besties to come and join me at various occasions. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Sorry. Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah, so we'll go through week by week. I'm hoping to do these Instagram lives, assuming that Instagram works, every other day. And then I also have, I'm not going to spoil it. I'll let you guys know. I'm going to keep you on the edge of your seat. But I have some friends. I have at least 2 people who have agreed to join me and talk BB at some point in time. And to just kind of to talk about stuff. So that's what we're going to do. Let's go back in time, shall we? Let me read to you from my book. This is a BB bedtime story, if you will. So week 1, let's go back to the very beginning where it all started. Now, I'm sure, and it's funny because Michael says this in a lot of his episode or a lot of his interviews or whatever, that how he knew that maybe he would want to work with me in this game is that he saw me walk into the Big Brother house and he saw the big grin on my face that is only a grin that a super fan would ever have, and that is absolutely the truth. I couldn't even hide that I was a super fan. The fact that I was walking into the Big Brother house on day 1 is just like, I don't know, was just an absolute dream come true. You guys have probably seen, I have been watching the show since season 1, since I was 10 years old. So that's for 22 years. And I had applied maybe 6 or 7 times. I'm not even kidding you. So if you guys have applied and you haven't got in, don't take no for an answer. Just keep applying. And you know what? I used to submit these. No, I can't give any tips on casting because I honestly don't know why I got picked this time versus when I was cute and young in my 20s. But now I got picked. The only advice I would give, just my own experience, is that I applied many times for the show. And because I like doing video editing and stuff, I did these cool, 3-minute montage videos that were all edited. And you could see these footage from my life, and I made it all fancy. No, throw that out. Do not do this. The time that I applied this time for Big Brother, I literally just sat like I'm doing here right now. And I was just like, yeah, my name is Brittany. I was just talking to the camera like I'm talking to you guys, or like you're talking to your best friend. That's the best kind of advice I could give, because I know I get this question a lot, like how to get on Big Brother. The best advice I could give is just you being a real person, talking to a camera, almost like you're talking to your best friend. And I think I literally spent 2 of my 3 minutes being like, yeah, I live in this house. I ran out of money for furniture, so I don't have any furniture. I'm literally sitting on a beanbag chair right now because I don't have a couch in this room. And, yeah, so, I just talked to the camera, and then I was like, yeah, and I'm a hypnotist. And yeah, my name's Brittany. And that was pretty much it. Now, I would imagine, okay, if I wasn't a hypnotist, which is kind of a cool job. I don't know. Is it cool? I don't think it's cool. I think it's unique. You don't meet hypnotists all the time. I think it's a unique job. I'm sure that's what helped me get into the house too. But I also think it's just the ability to be able to talk and just be yourself. And that would be my best. And the fact that I was a super fan. But yeah, that would be kind of my best advice there. Anyways, I'm going way, way back, pre-week 1. But anyways, I was a super fan, and you honestly don't even know if you're going to be on the show, officially, until you are walking in the house. No one ever told me oh, you're not an alternate, you're a real person. So it's just funny. I think walking into the house, you see how excited everyone is. That is literally because it's official. They are walking into the Big Brother house. They are on Big Brother. And that was my, how I knew. So Week 1 starts. I get picked for backstage. Oh my God, guys. I know it probably seems ridiculous because we all know the moral of the story. But getting picked for that stupid backstage twist Week one was just, okay, so I'm so excited to be in this house, to be doing this. And it's premiere night, and already my game's in jeopardy. Already the strategy that I had coming into the Big Brother house, which was, week one, you want to lay low. You just want to, you just want to get to know people, kind of get a lay of the land. I'm more of an introvert. I know that seems kind of hard to believe considering that, but compared to all the other personalities in the house, I'm more to myself. These are just things that you just kind of you want to be observant, right? Your first week. You don't want to play too hard. But you know what? When you're wearing the freaking backstage shirt and you could be going home and you don't know what will have you going home, I just felt like all of a sudden I had to play real messy and real hard, real quick, by just trying to do anything that I could do. And what's kind of funny is, given the fact that, probably what I hear, I end up winning the vote. I did not know it was a vote. They didn't ever tell me this. I literally found out that it was an America's vote literally when I had reunited with my husband after finale night. He's like, oh, by the way, America voted for you to stay week one on Backstage. I was like, what? I did not know this. They did not tell me this. I'm actually kind of glad they did not tell me because I probably would have, told somebody. I think I said this on a different live, but I probably would have told Michael and then he probably would have used it against me during the double eviction. So, it probably was a good idea that I didn't tell anybody. And I don't know if I would have made leftovers. I might have been more targeted by people if they knew that America had saved me week one. The girls might have wanted to work with me more. They might have been like, oh shit, America likes Brittany, more than the other two. They might have wanted to try to work with me more. And then we all know that we wouldn't want to have been on that side of the house. It was better to have been in the leftovers. I guess it's actually, looking back on it, probably good to know that to be a leftover, to be somebody who wasn't the most popular in the house. And I think if it would have been known that I had won the backstage thing, that might have changed things. So anyways, I wouldn't want to change anything other than I would have liked to have made it further than fourth. But it is kind of just crazy to look back on that now. And getting picked for backstage was just so stressful. So, it's funny to think about it too, based on what they told us. It probably, we play out scenarios, right? So I was thinking, okay, either Pooch, since he was the backstage boss, he might have to pick one of us to compete against the other person that was on the block. Now we know week one, it was Terrence and Taylor, right? And at that point in time in the house, it was all, oh, let's get Taylor, let's get Taylor. So if it was a house vote of who was going to compete in that bye-bye backstage comp, it probably would have been Taylor. And then if the house had anything to say with it, or Pooch had anything to say with it, it was probably going to be me. So we kind of went through the rest of the season thinking that it was going to be me and Taylor having to compete against each other on that bye-bye backstage, which Taylor won that obstacle course comp. I can't remember who she was playing against. I should know this. But I lost. I think I was playing, I can't remember who I was playing against either. I don't know. It didn't matter. But normally I would have lost that kind of physical type comp, and she would have obviously won. So it felt like all season that it was like, whew, I would have been gone because I did not know that that America had voted to save me, which was crazy. In actuality, I don't know how that would have worked out if Paloma or if Alyssa would have had to go up against Taylor. But regardless, Taylor probably would have won against either of them. So either would have been Alyssa or Paloma going, regardless. So, yeah. So crazy. Just crazy how that happens. By the way, since we're talking about backstage though, and I know some of you guys think I'm being ridiculous for this, but you just have to understand that that was such a stressful time. And I look at that backstage shirt and I look at that backstage pass, and it does not, for me, it kind of makes my stomach churn and go crazy. It does not bring up very good memories for me. And so I decided, you know what? Let's transmute this energy here. I don't want this negative energy hanging around my house. Let's transmute it into something good. And I know there's plenty of fans out there who love Big Brother and love Big Brother memorabilia. So I have reached out to Hearts of Reality, and they are auctioning off as we speak for the next week my backstage shirt and my backstage pass, and they will be signed. And you can purchase them. You can participate in the auction, and it all goes to charity to help children who are terminally ill get to experience a fun vacation. That is the charities that Hearts of Reality works with. So I was thinking, you know what? That seems like, and let's just say this, they may bring me bad memories, but I think they could bring you guys some very good memories because it has to do with BB24 memorabilia, and I was the one who won the America's Vote. So technically there's no, these are lucky items for other people. I just don't want them hanging around my house, and I would like them to actually, do some good in the world if at all possible. So, if you go to my Instagram stories, I have the link to that auction. And you know what? Speaking of it, I actually will add the link to the link in my bio too. Did I play against Amira? Thanks. I wasn't looking at who I was playing against in by backstage. I was so focused on Brittany, stop falling and flailing yourself. You know what I felt like? I felt like a sea lion or something stuck on a barge. That's how I felt trying to fling my body onto that obstacle course. It was pretty bad. But yeah, so if you want to auction off, if you want to participate in that auction, it's here for a week. And I think there's already like a good amount of bids already on the items, so you can win them. And maybe I'll write a special note or something and include that in there too. I'm just trying to make something good out of this, right? This whole week one, as we all know, in the Big Brother 24 house was a really difficult week. And I'm not going to get into the particulars because that's not my story to tell, but I will tell my perspective of it, which was very, difficult. So we're going to turn what was a lot of turmoil for a lot of different people on week one into something really great so we can help some children. Sound good? So the link will be in my bio, as well as if you go to my Instagram story right now, you can bid on those items. So that's pretty fun. Let's see what else I got on this notebook. That's what I'm looking down at. I'm looking at my week one notes. So this is as I watched all the episodes. So to answer your questions, I have officially finished all the episodes. You know what? I should put the link here, but it's very long and I actually don't have it. Let's see. Maybe it's like stuck in maybe if I just paste. Did I do it? No, it doesn't here. Sorry, I don't have it here. And I'm afraid if I X out of this, I'm going to lose all you guys. So I will just go to my Instagram stories and go to my bio right after this live for the auction link. And I'll include it there. And of course, I'll be doing lives throughout. I'm going to do a live every other day as we go through all this stuff. So I'll include it when that happens too. So week one. And these are my notes that I wrote as I was watching the episodes, because I have finished all the episodes now. You know what was really funny? Okay, so hearing Daniel and Nicole, the fact that they were called the Rogue Rats, I'd never heard of that. That was actually really funny to me as I watched this. And the fact that they're like, we're going to be under the radar. I'm like, under the radar? It was immediately apparent that they were friends in the house. Like anytime you'd want to go up to the HOH room to talk to Daniel week one, like Nicole was there. Like you viewed them as one, just pretty much from day one, which is kind of funny. So watching back that in the episodes, I thought was funny. Also, can I just make a note? I'm going to be talking about my experience and a lot of other people's experiences here, but I'm purposely, if you're here for drama, please just leave, because honestly, I'm not going to talk any shit about anybody on a personal level. I'm not going to contribute to that negativity that's out there too. But I will talk about everything in game. And of course I didn't always see eye to eye with people in game. But I'm not going to address anything about like, who's this and stuff like that. There are obviously, you guys, if you watch the live feeds, you know that there are people who are nice to me. There are people that are mean to me. Some people have apologized. Some people have not. I'm not going to dive into all that. So please take it when I talk about anyone else beyond myself. It's purely in a game sense. So it is nothing against anybody. I just think it's funny when you find out things in the game that you weren't aware of, right? Like the Rugrats. So what was interesting that Pooch said, and I'm sure you guys recall, when he picked who he was going to do backstage, I thought it was a pretty fair assessment of who he picked. He picked the person who got out first in each of the three, what do you call it? Each of the three little mini competitions that we played during premiere night. So Paloma got picked because she got out in potty talk, where they were in the porta potties. She got out first. Alyssa got picked because she dropped first from the merch stand. And I got picked, not because I was last in the competition, because it was really impossible to see who would be last. I think I only had like 1 or 2 maybe earrings left. So I was actually pretty far along. And I got picked because there's a really funny meme about this, but I got picked because I don't know. He says he picked me because he remembers that I said that I belly dance, and he thought that I was a professional belly dancer. I don't know why that would be a reason to pick anybody. Maybe you just remembered me. Maybe he just thought, oh, this is somebody who's not going to be very strong, and so they won't come after me. I don't know. We would have to ask Pooch what his real reasons were, and I don't know if he would even tell us what his real reasons were for picking me. But I remember just feeling really like, the other 2 girls, it made his reasoning made sense. For me, it felt, yeah, it's all women too, which, that's a whole other thing. But for me, it felt like, really? Like there's no reason. And I think there's like I can laugh at it too, right? But there's this funny moment in the DR where I'm actually genuinely upset because I think I'm going to, I think I'm going to go home and lose my lifelong dream of getting to play this game. And I'm like, I'm crying in the DR and I'm like, he just picked me because I said that I belly dance. And it's funny because it felt very real to me, but I could understand how that would be very funny to somebody that's just like watching it. But yeah, so that just felt automatically. And this was before I met anyone. This is before girls was girls. All these things that already I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm being singled out here, as somebody who is expendable in this game. And that, was just really stressful and not something that anyone ever wants to feel, being in that house. So, yeah, so that's basically that. Another thing that was kind of crazy, and I don't know if you've watched, if you didn't watch the live feeds, then you guys wouldn't know this, or, I don't expect you to be watching me every second, even if you did watch live feeds. But Michael, so, we're in this house. It's crazy. It feels like we're all moving like a pack from room to room, all 16 of us, as we're getting to know each other. And I start kind of picking up and noticing that when I'm in group conversations, I tend to be one of the more quieter ones. And you start noticing who else, tends to be kind of quiet in group situations. And that's how I kind of noticed that Michael was kind of similar to me in that respect, that he would kind of be hanging back a little bit. And oh, Joy, you watch me. Thank you. Shout out, by the way, Finding Joy Services. I will link to her, but I did some emotion coding this afternoon with Joy, and it was an absolute joy to experience. So thank you for that. So anyways, I started noticing kind of what personalities I think I'd kind of get along with, who I would, who I wouldn't. And I all of a sudden kind of just realized like, oh, there's this other guy that's always in groups that tries to speak up, but like people will kind of talk over him. And like, I don't know. I just kind of thought that, Michael and I would get along. He reminded me a lot of my friends back from home. And so I kind of pulled him off to the side day 2. And I was just like, hey, are you feeling a little like awkward sometimes in these group conversations? Like, how are you feeling? And he's like, yeah, are you? And I'm like, yeah. And so that was day 2, right? Nominations hadn't even happened. At that point in time, nominations hadn't happened. I can't remember when noms were. I think they were day 3 because they gave us an extra day. This is what I messed up on my final 3 veto. I think noms were day 3 and veto was day 4. I don't know. If you guys know better than me, I don't remember. Obviously, I was under a lot of stress with backstage. I do not remember these things. That is why I messed up my final 4 veto by getting that answer wrong. So Yeah. And so exactly. Somebody said Michael was very shy the first day, the first week. Yeah. It's very overwhelming. If you are not an extroverted personality and there's 16 mostly extroverts in this house and everyone's trying to out personality the person next to them, like it is so overwhelming. And, here I was wearing this backstage shirt, which obviously made it even harder. I know the whole thing, they were like, you can still play your social game. Yeah, good luck. When you can't vote, when you can't play a comp, when you can't really have anything to offer anyone, and you're already kind of the odd woman out of the three, it made it so difficult to have productive conversations. It was almost as if everyone was walking around the house thinking, oh, she'll be gone, so we don't really need to get to know her. Let's get to know everybody else. And that made it very, very difficult. But Michael he wasn't really that way. And so we started talking, and so we were just like, we just became instant friends. And so when he gets nominated, Daniel does his initial nominations. It's Michael, it's Terrence. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Here I am in backstage, and the one friend that I feel really good about. Now, of course, I'm in girls, but the first red flag, okay, of girls was, okay, we'll be an all girls alliance with us 6 here in the room, but let's not invite Nicole and Taylor. That should have been my first red flag. And in a way, it kind of was, because it was like, okay, we want to be an all-girls alliance, but we're already excluding some of the girls. And, in that moment, if I was super Brittany, I would have loved to have been like, no, we need to invite these other people. But, it's hard. It's stressful. You're in the house. I already have this backstage shirt on. It felt like, to my mind, it was like, okay, I'll kind of hang tight here. You might not want to work with these other women, but I can explore that. And that's why I had a conversation with Taylor on day 2, being like, hey, I want to see a strong woman win this game. And we kind of forged our own relationship on the side. Even though she wasn't part of Girls, to me, I was still going to work with her because I had nothing to lose. And honestly, I didn't have much to offer her, which made it hard to work with her. But in a way, it almost kind of was like, hey, we can be friends. Very similar to Michael. I didn't have much to offer being backstage, but then it almost opened up an ability to forge a friendship, which obviously proved very beneficial later in the game and just in life, right? So I was so sad. Here I make this friend, probably the closest person that I had made friends with, which was Michael at this point in time of the game, and he gets nominated. And he gets nominated week 1. So we're just kind of like, And it's actually kind of funny because I think they show this in the episode. They show Michael in the have-not room being like, I can and I will, I can and I will. That was kind of like his catchphrase that he would use to kind of pump himself up, get in the right mindset for playing comps. And we would say this, to each other all the time. And right after that moment, I kind of went upstairs to the have-not room too. And we just kind of were like, all right, step 1, you need to win the veto. We didn't know he was a comp beast. He didn't even know he was a comp beast at this point in time. You need to win the veto. And then I need to get through backstage. Okay. Let's go. It just seemed like such an improbable events that both those things would happen. But we just both knew we were super fans. We both knew that we had to do something. So, I was so sad when he first got nominated, and cause we really just weren't supposed to be friends. We had the step 1, the step 2 plan. And of course, both of them ended up working out, and we end up, getting to play the majority of the game together, which was pretty great. So, here's what's interesting. So I'm watching back these episodes. I didn't know week 1 that Terrence was the pawn. Now, of course, maybe they're just editing it that way. But I think it's kind of funny too. I'm also like, in my notes, I'm like, don't you need an alliance / people you're working with to determine who is the pawn? You can't just be like, I'm HOH, this person's the pawn. No, the people who are voting decide how that's working. So, it's one thing to just say who is a pawn, but it's another thing to actually have it work out for you. And then, what broke my heart watching the first week 1 episodes? Broke my heart that seeing that whole montage of Michael asking other people to play for him for the veto, and all of them kind of hemming and hawing and being like, we'll see, and this and that. I know that feeling. I know that feeling when it just feels like everybody's counted you out. Everybody is just kind of moved on. In their mind, they're already thinking week 2 because they're so sure of how week 1 has already played out. And that is just one of the most awful feelings. And you know why it feels especially awful? Because I would have played for him. But what sucked is I couldn't because of the backstage. He knew I wasn't able to, he knew I wasn't able to play the veto, anyways. And so it just kind of, I'm sure it stunk for him too, that it was like, oh, okay, great. I make good friends with this one person and she can't even play for me. But yeah, that really kind of broke my heart to see that montage, because I didn't really know that he was having these other conversations, and, that people were, that people were saying no to him, which makes me sad. Their loss. Oh my gosh, watching that Renfest veto though, Michael's first veto that he wins. First of all, I know if you guys have caught any of the other lives, I can't remember if I mentioned it, but I know Taylor mentioned it the other times too. But it was so freaking hot that day. They had all this real food out on that table that we were all watching the comp from. And literally there was a pie in front of me that the bottom melted out of it. And so it's just like ooey gooey pie, just like in front of me. You know what? I'm old. I need to put my glasses on. Ooh. Do you ever do that where you don't have glasses on? Oh, now these look like where you don't have glasses you don't have glasses on and then you put them back on. Actually, it's like my eyes are not adjusting. Anyway, sorry. Sorry, guys. So anyways, it was very hot, but it felt like, from a super fan's perspective, getting to sit front row to watch a veto competition was just like, that was just like getting to sit on the sidelines of the Super Bowl. Like, for me, it was just the coolest thing in the entire world. And that never went away. Like, throughout being on Big Brother, that literally never went away. It never was lost on me just how absolutely awesome it was to see the behind the scenes of how competitions work, to get to play in competitions, even to get to watch competitions. Of course, you never wanted to be sitting on the sidelines during a veto. You always wanted to be playing. But, it was just really cool to just be there and watching. And it was so hot. One thing that I will say that was kind of not the most fun though, was that I remember sitting there in that particular competition. Oh gosh, they edited it down, but that one took so freaking long. I don't even know how long we were out there. Gotta be for a couple hours at least. And that was at the point in time, it was day 4. I know this now, day 4. People, and it feels so weird, day 4, you like, why would anybody count you out? But I was definitely feeling ostracized by that point. And I remember I had Jasmine on my left and I had Pooch on my right. And literally the entire time, and this is, again, what I'm saying is what happened here in this moment. This is no reflection on anyone as people. Jasmine and I actually text the other day, like I'm not starting drama, but at this moment on day 4, Jasmine was sitting next to Alyssa, which was ends up being one of her best friends, right? She was literally talking to Alyssa to her left the entire time. Pooch was talking to Nicole and others on his right the whole time. It literally no one, and I'm not saying all this, I don't want anybody to be like, she's complaining. I'm literally just telling you what the situation was. It just felt so ostracizing, if that's a word. Literally no one was talking to me. And I just was just sitting there on the edge of my seat, just being like, please, Michael, please win this. Because if I'm going to survive in this house, I need you here. And I knew I couldn't cheer for him too hard because I knew that the rest of the house was kind of wanting him. And it just was so, to be sitting there for hours on end while no one was really talking to me, but just to be watching with bated breath, just being like, please, friend, please win this thing, please, so I'm not alone in this house. And it was just such a satisfying feeling when Michael won, and it was so down to the wire. It really came down to him and Amira, just barely. And it was just such a great feeling, even though I felt like I couldn't. I had Daniel, I think, sitting right behind me. So I didn't want to be like, yay, too much. That was always kind of my celebration strategy, was just to not, to do that too much. But to see Michael win in that moment was just really, really fun. And yeah, I just didn't want to celebrate too hard. Let's see. What's my next week 1 thing? Oh, here's just a general note. Whew, I make some faces. I know you guys know this. I did not know that I made crazy faces. Oh, hi, Indy's here. Hello. So, and then this is also something I guess that sometimes whenever there were things going on and I got comments or anything, one of the comments that you guys always say is like, oh, you're so entertaining. And I just think that is so hilarious because that is literally, I mean, you guys know this. I just talk how I normally talk on here or on the DR, literally anywhere I am. And it's just, I'm not trying to do anything like that. Like, oftentimes when I was in the house, I just felt like I wasn't doing enough, which is really funny because I know a lot of people are like, oh, she did too much. But I'm like, you are there 24/7. I am not here. This is not summer camp. I am not here to be, I mean, I wanted to make friends, but let me tell you, being in a Big Brother house is not the environment to try to make friends. If you manage to make friends, you have done something miraculous. I'm here to play a game. That's why we were here. And if you were here for any other reason, it got a little annoying, right? So it's funny to hear the primary adjective of which people say that they watch me and like me is because I'm entertaining. Because that literally, I can think of, millions of more people, not millions because there's only 16 of us, but I can think of a lot of other people that were trying to do things to be entertaining in the house, that would oftentimes get on my nerves when said things would happen. And it's just kind of funny that that's what people are telling me. Let me just tell you that I was never ever trying to do anything entertaining. And I hope you can see that because I'm just talking how I normally am, right? Okay, so let's see what the next thing is. Okay, now I have already told her this personally and one-to-one, but I just want to publicly say I am sorry, Amira. I am sorry because, and she knows this, like I was saying with backstage, right? With backstage, all of a sudden I wanted to lay low week 1. Wasn't really an option for me because I thought I had to kind of grasp at straws in terms of trying to, what do I, Brittany, have different than, say, Paloma or Alyssa? I'm not in my 20s. I'm not cute. I'm not single. I'm not skinny, beautiful supermodel girls, which both of them are fit all those descriptions. They were also made a ton of friends in the house and were very well liked. I felt like, what do I have to offer? And I thought, well, maybe I can be a little bit more strategic in this game. Maybe I could offer Pooch some information that perhaps the other girls aren't willing to offer him, and he might want to work with me long term. And so if he has any say in who stays with the backstage twist, maybe, just maybe, he'll see me differentiated from the other 2 girls, and want to keep me. We know that wasn't necessarily the point. And I'm sure you guys remember that scene. It's not a scene. It was a moment when I was talking to Pooch in the storage room, basically trying to let him know the one piece of information. I don't know. I don't know what you guys talk about. Sorry. I'm trying to keep up with the comments, but it's hard to talk. So that one piece of information that I had, which was that Amira was mentioning about wanting to get him out. Now, Amira will be the first to admit as well. She's admitted this to me. And she mentioned a lot of people that she wanted to get out, myself included. And so I thought, you know what, if I could go to Pooch and kind of give him a heads up, which ended up being the truth, by the way. We did end up week 2, get him out. Maybe I could give him this heads up. Maybe he'll want to work with me. Now, I knew that there was a risk of him going back to Amira and saying that I said this, but honestly, I was grasping at straws. I didn't know what to do. I was backstage. I might not make it to week 1. I wasn't playing any further than survive this week. And so, I know he went back and told Amira that I said that. And I know Amira was very upset. They showed a little bit of this conversation, one of the episodes of Amira and Jasmine, like sitting me down and being like, Brittany, did you say this? And I was vehemently denying it, which that felt way more like an interrogation, and rightfully so, than the episode really shows. But yeah, again, sorry, Amira. I did lie to you. I did tell Pooch that. I know you know this, but as I watched this, I'm like, oh, darn. That was not good. But I was like, what can I do to try to stay? And I thought maybe Pooch would be open to that. And it's so funny. You watch that moment in the storage room. Pooch is sitting up on the storage room cabinet, and he's sitting there being like, I'm a smart guy, and I'm trying to use football metaphors with him. I'm purposely cowering down a little bit lower so he can feel like he's higher. I'm trying to use whatever psychological tools that I can to just really put him up on a pedestal, make him feel like a boss, make him just really feel like he's, in control of the situation. He's got all the power. Literally just trying to do anything, talk some game with him, because I knew if it was who he could flirt with the most, if that was who he's going to keep in the house for the summer, I was going to lose that one because I'm a happily married woman. So, it is what it is. Let's see. Okay, there's a lot of things here, and I'm also skipping over some notes. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to speak about the whole Paloma week 1 situation. All that I can say is that, just as a general note to all of us, is that we all just have to keep in mind how important mental health is, and taking care of our own mental health. And especially, here's just something completely unrelated, but about mental health in the Big Brother game, is that when you're in the Big Brother house, and I think this is kind of something that I really didn't realize, and actually was talking to somebody today about this, is that the game is designed to essentially take away all your comforts, right? And so a lot of us, we might have, think about yourself. When you're having a rough day and maybe your mental health's a little bit on the fritz, what are the kind of things that you do to take care of yourself? If you're anything like me, you might try to exercise. So at least we have a bike in there, but maybe you'd go for a walk, try to get some fresh air. Maybe you'd listen to your favorite music. Maybe you have meditation apps, or you have other things. To try to calm yourself. We all have coping mechanisms and tools. So many of those things are taken away in the Big Brother house. And so I'm just speaking from my own perspective. I'm not speaking for anyone else in the house right now. But I just do want to highlight that I know for myself, a lot of people are like, oh, Brittany spiral, or Brittany this, Brittany that. And that's perfectly fine. People can say whatever they want to say. Just keep in mind, as we watch myself or anyone in this season, that you are literally in a situation that is designed to let you not cope the way that you would. So I just think I think that's just something that's been kind of eye-opening for me, especially if I've gotten back into my normal life and I have all my beautiful, wonderful tools that keep me happy. And I have so many people that are like, wow, Brittany, you seem so much happier now. And I'm like, no shit, because I actually have the things that I know that work for me now. And those things are not necessarily available to you. For instance, I know Alyssa talked about this a lot, and I totally agree. Being able to write. I'm a big journaler. I love to journal. Whenever something's on my mind, I like to just write it out. I think that's another tool that we all kind of take for granted when it comes to our mental health. And so that's a lot of times, I know a lot of you guys would join me in my, freak out sessions in the have not room those first couple weeks, is that literally I would go up there and I just would talk out loud, because it was the one place I could just be alone with 16 people. And, and it was one of those, it was almost as if I was journaling, just stream of consciousness. I was journaling. It's just, I couldn't write it down. So I just spoke it out loud, and it just felt good to just get off my head, off my mind. So it's, I think everyone in the house tried to the best of their abilities, however much that may be, to find their own ways. And definitely week 1, you're still trying to kind of figure out what works for you. So yeah. Yes, and everybody, I'm talking about myself. If you were thinking I'm talking about anybody else, you misheard me. I'm talking about myself and how I mentally coped in the house. Which, week 1, you're still trying to figure out. You're literally just trying to figure out, how do I get some sleep in this house? How do I feed myself in this house? How do I take care of myself mentally? So, yeah, that's what you have to do. Let's see. Oh my gosh. And then when they announced that the backstage twist was gone, Oh my gosh. You know what's funny about that is I was sitting next to Alyssa, and I think I just like break down crying, and Alyssa's like hugging me, and I'm like, Alyssa, I just want to apologize to you why you were hugging me. You were also saved from backstage, and I'm sure you were very upset or happy or whatever with that too. I was just so freaking happy. Like, we just literally, I mean, ever since P left, we hadn't really considered what that would mean for backstage. Obviously, our minds were elsewhere. We were thinking of other things. We were hoping she was okay. Just as a human being, we were hoping that she's okay. Since, you know, it was just a really difficult week for all of us. So yeah, it was just kind of, it was just, that moment, that was just such, I don't think I've ever felt such immediate just relief, like just like weights were just lifted off my shoulders, in that moment. And, it's just kind of crazy to see it and to just relive that relief too. Also, one other thing that this is just kind of a general note, but it's funny when I watch back these episodes, is nothing. Okay, so how do I explain this? So you guys are watching the show, right? I've watched the show since season 1. It's edited with the fun music, and it just looks glossy, and it looks like TV, and it takes what is very intense and very real emotions. It takes all this, and it makes it look more fun and not as intense, if that makes any sense. Like, it's so weird to watch, like, oh, okay, it looks like sweet and heartwarming if I break down crying about backstage, but like really, like my body is like convulsing and like that's very real to me or to whoever we're watching. I think I don't know. I have a new kind of appreciation / understanding, I guess, when I'm watching reality TV now, especially Big Brother. I watch other clips. I've watched like other clips of other seasons since getting out of the house. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's a very real, perhaps scary, perhaps sad moment. And then because there's some music behind it, it doesn't feel as heavy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just keep that in mind. And I know it's impossible. Unless you were there, it's really difficult to do that. But yeah, so I say nothing looks as intense on TV as it feels. It's a very glossy TV version. Of course, if you're watching the live feeds, you have a better understanding of that. But it really just kind of, I guess when you care about it as much as at least I did, it's a lifelong dream. It just felt like life or death. Like it just felt like this mattered more than anything in the world to me, which honestly, I think it did. Big Brother means a lot to me. And it did to me in those moments. And so to be saved from backstage was pretty crazy. The bye-bye backstage comp. I will say this. That floor was very mushy. Okay. It was like a marshmallowy kind of texture, and it kind of played tricks on you. I remember when I stepped off onto it, it was very much like, oh gosh, you know, like, ooh, this is unexpected. You expect it to like hold your foot a little bit more. I guess what I'm trying to say is it did not surprise me that Jasmine, you know, tweaked her ankle or whatnot on that, because it was a very soft, very mushy floor. Oh, here's kind of a fun, and I hope he doesn't mind that I mention it because it was actually very funny. But here's just kind of a funny behind the scenes moment. When we were picking players for Renfest, the first veto that Michael won, that week 1, when we were picking players for Renfest, you pick a host. And so Daniel, I guess, was the HOH, and he picked Kyle as the host. And this is the first week that we picked hosts. This is the first anything. I'm sorry, Kyle, if you have an issue with me telling this story, but it was really funny, and it's nothing against you or anything. But he picked Kyle as the host. And Kyle, you know, if you watch Kyle's TikTok videos, he's a performer. He dances. He's very animated, right? He hosted that first competition with that long scroll. And, you know, he's very physical and animated and an entertainer, right? That's what he does on TikTok. And so Daniel picks Kyle, and Kyle gets up and he celebrates and he runs around the coffee table and he's like, yeah, and he's giving us all high fives, and he sits down. And then production is like, yeah, Kyle, you don't have to get up when you're picked. You can just stay seated. And he was so embarrassed. And it was just so funny because literally for the rest of the season, whenever we did any veto comps or there was any hosts picked, like we all would look at Kyle and we'd be like, okay, stay seated. Or we'd look at whoever got picked and it's like, okay, don't jump up and celebrate. Like you're supposed to just sit there. Like it became a running joke literally for the rest of the season because of how much he celebrated when he got picked as a host. Oh gosh, my blinds are coming down. That is that sound. I will wait for them to come down so that I have this right here. So anyways, I thought that was kind of funny. Let's see. So that is my week 1 notes. Now, I'm trying to think what to do. It's 7:29. I was going to, I should know this about myself already, that I talk a lot. I want to keep these purposely a little bit shorter or on the shorter side. And I know I got a late, start on this because Instagram wasn't working, but I'm going to answer. Maybe I'll just spend a couple more minutes just answering questions. And then maybe the next live, I'll just pick up on week 2. So those are my week 1 stories, mainly about backstage and myself, which I'm not really talking about anybody but myself because that's the only perspective that I have. But maybe I'll answer some questions just for the rest of this one. And then we'll get into week 2 next time. So let me look. Okay. Let me just say this. Anybody who's asking about Turner in the paper, I'm not going to answer that. I don't know if I'll ever answer that. I'm definitely not answering that until I get my check. Let's see. As someone... Okay, this is a really great question. And yes. Okay. I don't want to speak. I'll speak to my experience of this, right? Because I can't speak to anybody else's experience. But somebody asked the question, as someone who works in a field related to mental health, did you find it difficult to not step in week 1 when Paloma started displaying signs of a manic episode? Here's what I will say from my perspective. First of all, I am not a mental health professional. Not at all. Hypnotist. I'm a clinical hypnotist. I work alongside mental health professionals, but I do not diagnose. I do not treat any sort of mental health. I can ease symptoms of anxiety or depression. Hypnosis is great for that. Hypnotherapy is great for that, but I am not a mental health professional. So let me just say that from the get-go, right? I also will say that when she was having difficulty, I remember there was one instance where some people, I think it was Alyssa and Turner, were talking with her and she seemed like she was having a tough time, and I did step in, and because we weren't as close as she was with some other people, I felt like I was able to step in and be like, hey, are you okay? Do you need help? And I was able to kind of take on somewhat of a role of like an outside sort of observer, somebody who's really kind of anchoring the conversation and being able to talk with her, because we didn't have as close as a friendship as perhaps she had with some other people in the house. And, kind of help direct her that evening to do what she needed to do. I will also say, and this is a huge thing for me. So obviously I came into the house. I did not tell the other house guests immediately that I was, a clinical hypnotist. I was fully intending on keeping that entirely to myself. But after week 1 and just recognizing how difficult it is for anyone in the house to be able to maintain a positive and healthy mindset, and to take care of their own mental health in the house, given for all the reasons I mentioned before, that you don't have your normal tools and resources and coping mechanisms that we might have in the outside world. It made me think, oh my gosh, Brittany, you cannot all summer just sit here and have the ability to help people feel better mentally through hypnotherapy. And just because you don't want to share what you do for a living, just keep that to yourself. And so that was like a real big sort of kind of like moral dilemma I felt in the house, that I was like, oh my gosh, my strategy coming in here was that they wouldn't know I could do this. But now I'm just going to sit here and, we take care of our bodies. We have people like Joseph and Monty who personal trainers, like, helping people group train. Why can't we have that for our own minds, taking care of our mental health, in some capacity? And so that is when I decided early week 2. And I can't even remember what lie I made up. I think I was like, I host group meditations for my friend's yoga studio on the weekends. So would you guys want me to lead you in a meditation? I think that was what I said. And people were like, sure. They didn't know that I do it professionally. But that was kind of my way of reacting to the difficulties of being in the house and how difficult it can be mentally, to try to think, okay, I know that this does not necessarily really help my game any, especially getting everybody in the right mindset Wednesday before a Thursday HOH is probably not very helpful for my game, but it would just be able to do my part to try to make sure that we all take care of ourselves mentally and that we all sort of do what we can. Given the skill set that I have and what I might be able to offer in that department. So that was what I tried to do there. And obviously I think Alyssa told me that Daniel thought I was a therapist who did hypnosis, which that was a pretty close guess. I think Joseph actually guessed it right. He was like, I think she's one of those people that has the pendulums. Like, he didn't know what it was called, I don't think, but basically guessed it right, thinking that I was a hypnotist. No one else really thought that, that I did that professionally or anything. Although I would tell them that it was something I was exploring and thinking about doing, and we'd have conversations about that. So let's see. Who was trying to make good TV? I'm not going to answer that. How does it feel to be part of a historic season? That's an interesting thought. Here's what I'll say. If you can't win yourself, which obviously is the goal that everyone has, it's pretty doggone cool to have one of your 2 best friends, which my 2 best friends in the house were Michael and Taylor, the Smelly Salad Alliance, to have one of your best friends win America's Favorite. Like, I feel just a deep sense of relief that it's like, okay, Brittany, you've been wanting to be on this show every season since you were 10 years old. Like, at least the season that I was on, a good friend of mine won. So that is really cool, I will say. As far as it being a historic season, I did always kind of ask myself as a fan, I was like, man, do all Big Brother seasons feel this chaotic? I remember asking myself that in the house a lot. I was like, is this just what Big Brother feels like? Or is this just very chaotic? And I'm getting the sense from watching back the season and comparing it just to my knowledge of watching back past other seasons, is that this was a particularly chaotic season to be in. Which, hey, you know what? That might work in my advantage, because if I were to ever be asked for an All-Stars or a, second chance a season or something like that, maybe I'd be like, oh, this is a piece of cake compared to BB24. You never know. So, yeah, that was kind of funny. Let's see what other questions we got here. I'm answering. If you have a question, put it in the actual questions thing, because the comments go by so fast that I don't really see them. So I'm pulling them up here. When Monty came at you that week you won the veto, did you realize that you and Michael were right about him all along? Let's set aside the wording of that question. I'll just talk about relationship with Monty. It's interesting. I will actually say I feel like I had pretty good reads of the entire season, for the most part, understanding what was going on. I will say this, that I thought Monty and I were working together longer than we did. Like, looking back on it, like, I had no idea that the moment Big Brochella was over, that he ran to the Dire Fest people and basically spilled the beans. I did not know that. So I would say that I probably, and this is me talking in a game perspective, okay, right? Like, and let me just say this. There are some people from our cast that I probably will not speak to again, or will speak to in a group setting. That's just going to be natural for all of us, right? We're going to have closer friendships with some people, others. But I'm going to try my best, at least me personally, to try to, just, we're no longer in a game, and I don't think it hurts anybody to ever try to just be generally kind. So that is to say that, do I hold anything against Monty personally? No. Do I agree with how he may have treated myself or other people in the house, namely Taylor? No. All those things can exist at the same time. What I will say from a game perspective between me and Monty is that I probably trusted him like 3 weeks too long from a game perspective. And I think when we were having that really in-depth 2.5 hour conversation, that week, I think because he was just saying that he played such a clean game, such an honest game again and again, and how dare I lie, and how dare this and that, I think I just thought, wow, if he's really saying this, I must be wrong about this. He must not be working with Turner. I mean, he did a good job of convincing me that I did not have a good read on it. Now we all know that he was lying and he was working with Turner, and I was right. And I had been sensing that for a couple weeks. But yeah, that was a really interesting moment. I remember, Taylor was in that room with me during that long conversation. Oh, and it was a painful one. I'm sure if you guys are watching on the live feeds, I know some of you guys are saying, oh, we want to come and grab you from that room, get you away from him. It was a painful conversation. And I was genuinely upset because I was like, man, I just must have had a wrong read here. I just really thought it didn't make any sense for him to put Taylor up on the block because he's saying he's not working with Turner. So why would you jeopardize Taylor like that? And, I just remember going outside after that and just needing a breath of fresh air. Like, whew, that was a long 2.5 hours. And Taylor just kind of looking at me and she's like, I'm so sorry, Britt. Like, I didn't know. Like, I remember she just kind of feeling like we both felt like we just got fed to the wolves. Like, it was intense. And we both were just a little perplexed. Like, oh, we didn't expect that was going to be the reaction. And yeah, I agree with you guys. It was a painful conversation. But I would say that it was convincing. You got to give him credit in that respect as a game move. Now you have to determine what kind of game you want to play and what kind of person you want to be when you play that game. But from a game move, he really did, after that sort of berating, really did convince me that he probably wasn't working with Turner. And so, that was, just an interesting conversation and thing to deal with. Oh my gosh, there's so many questions here. Let's see. Okay. Let me answer another one. When are we going to get a pic of you, Taylor, and Michael together? I do have one. I will say it was very difficult to get Taylor, after she had won, to get her in a picture and to get really even much time with her at all after she had won. She was a very busy lady, rightfully so. But we do have several pictures together, and we watched the first episode together. We were all sitting next to each other on the couch. So we took a picture there. And there's some good ones that you guys captured through the live feeds, which were fun. Do you plan to go back and watch any of the live feeds? Like the day Amira was nominated was so funny. You have to guys remember too, I know I wasn't in every room at every time, but I did live this. So there's some moments that I'm just like, no, I remember that one. Just living it. I have listened to some of the live feed recaps. I've also talked about Big Brother incessantly with my husband, who has watched every single moment of the live feeds. Like that was his livelihood for 3 months. So I've talked to him a lot about it. I've listened to some of the live feed recaps. I have not personally pulled up the live feeds because I'm just like, at a certain point, you just gotta let this go. I watched the episodes. I wanted to see what was on the show. So at a certain point, you're just like, you know what? I have other life to live beyond Big Brother. But I remember it being a very chaotic place to live, especially during that moment. Let's see. How do you feel about Monty being very insensitive to your fertility issues? Because we hated him for it. Oh, wow. I did not know that there was insensitivity there. That's disappointing. I would hope that anybody, and you know what? You guys have been so awesome. I think a lot of my fans have been people that have PCOS or have experienced infertility. And I feel like anyone who understands that and how difficult that can be. Just the outpouring of support. I just want to like say like a blanket thank you to anybody who's reached out to me, anybody who's shared their story. It can be just so devastating. And I think we also have to kind of put ourselves in other people's shoes and recognize like, if they don't quite understand how hard that is, or maybe they're at a different point in their life, maybe where children isn't something on their radar. It's one of those things that unless you live it, it's hard for most people to recognize just how difficult it can be. So, I always try to, just think through that, and recognize that it's a game. And I felt like it was always really important for me to share to people because I'm sure a lot of my decisions did not make sense to people about why I'd be okay going to the final with Michael, or why I'd be okay, kind of messing up my jury management in order to stay another week. Like I came into the house with a goal in mind, and that was a certain dollar amount so that I could start my family. And I'm going to cry just thinking about it. That was very important to me. I didn't want to come home empty-handed. And so I was going to do whatever I could to accomplish that goal. And so I think a lot of people in the house didn't really understand why I was making the decisions that I'd make. Oh, is Joseph here? Oh my gosh, Joseph, I was just about to talk about you. It's all good. Sorry, I'm getting upset. I think a lot of people didn't understand the kind of the game moves that I would make because it wasn't about necessarily winning for me. It was about reaching a certain dollar amount, having a certain goal, being able to come home and say, okay, here, we can do this for my family. And I will say, if anybody was feeling insensitive about the fertility stuff, one person who was not insensitive about it at all, and I will preach this from the rooftop, was Joseph. Like, I remember Joseph just hearing that. And I remember one day, Joseph, I don't know if you remember this, but you came up to me, and I'll admit, in the moment, I was like a little embarrassed, but I thought it was the sweetest thing ever. You came up to me and you're like, oh, some people have been like, I know it's, I can't remember exactly what you said. You said something to the effect that you were like, I know it kind of like hurts your feelings that people talk about the infertility or they say stuff around. You're like, I'm going around to everybody and just telling them like, hey, just like, don't talk about that with Brittany. Like, And I remember you telling me that you took it upon yourself to like go around and everybody and tell them like, to just like, be kind to me when it came to that. And I remember I was a little embarrassed at first because I was like, oh no, I don't need, you felt like my bodyguard, and it felt really sweet and I really appreciated it, even if I was a little sheepishly embarrassed in the moment. But I think that's why I felt like at certain moments in the game, I felt like I needed to tell people why I was in the house and remind them why I was in the house. Now, I realized that a lot of those people thought I was trying to be manipulative and was trying to pull on their heartstrings or whatever, and they maybe took that the wrong way. That, I don't have any control over how other people, feel about me or whatnot, So, I think that's to answer the question. Some people, I'm not going to just hide the reason why I'm there, especially when it impacts my game. There were decisions that I made that I make a different decision if I only wanted first, and I make the decision I made because I wanted a certain dollar amount. And I think some people just didn't always understand that. So, yes, I will agree, Joseph, you are a beautiful human being. Thank you for that moment, speaking up, because that really mattered. That really helped. All right, let's see what other questions we got here. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Let's see. What did I not answer? When are you going to reunite with Taylor and Michael? Like I said, guys, I'm doing these lives. I think I'm going to try to do them like every other day as we get through the weeks. And I already have some special guests lined up. So this will be incentive. I'm not going to tell you who and I'm not going to tell you when, but I am going to say, oh yeah, and Joseph, if you want to join sometime too, I would love you. Oh no, I'm already giving it away. Yeah, so, let's see. Are you going to do a deep dive with Taryn? I would love Taryn to ask me to do a deep dive. I've not been asked. What's up with your love of baseball caps? I love them too. I'll tell you what's up with my love for baseball caps. You want to know if my hair is dirty? I'm wearing a baseball cap. You want to know if my bangs are like this? I'm wearing a baseball cap. It is when I'm having a bad bang day. It's So when my hair is dirty and I couldn't wash it that morning and I need to wash it the next day, that is why I'm wearing a cap. So now you guys know, dang it, I gave away my secrets. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, I don't like that these questions, maybe I should make them go away or something. I've already answered these. Let's see. Sorry. Oh, how did it feel knowing you were for sure getting evicted? Was it dreadful? Dreadful is a great adjective to describe that. You know what's funny? You got to keep in mind too, and this is making me sound very oblivious, I guess. In my mind, it's Big Brother. I saw too many things change from day to day and said, oh, did Terrence say he's reaching out to me? Oh my gosh, guys, this will be so much fun. He's not ready for how much I talk. Someone warn him. Okay, so the question was it dreadful knowing you were going to get evicted? I knew the moment Michael left. First of all, let me just explain my mindset, and I'm sure when we get to this week, I'll re-explain it. But I knew the moment that Michael left, I was on my own completely. And because of the nature of the way that he left, which we'll get into that a whole other live, but because of how it went down, it also felt obviously like my whole world turned upside down, right? And so I was like, oh shit, I can't trust anybody. This is Big Brother. Like, what am I going to do? And so I completely felt on my own. And I knew that my strategy now became what was his strategy, which is you are only here as long as you win. And that ended up being the truth, right? I won that cuckoo clock snooze fest veto, so I stayed another week. I didn't win the next veto. I did not stay another week. I knew this. But part of me just thought, Monty is a very logical guy. And